I think I'm probably will be repeating for what has been said previously. I have done this talk about basically from distal femur nail. Let's go through this. The indication is very important. Which fractures we'll use for distal femur nail. It has to be ideally extraarticular. Even if it's a partial intraarticular, you can stabilize with some intraarticular interfrac screws and then go ahead. Main thing is that we have to miss the path of the nail. And even for, let's say, if you have a metaphyseal comminution, then the issue becomes that we should get a reduction proper. Otherwise, we'll end up with shortening. Where we do this in a supine position, many times because of the force of the muscle action, we would end up in shortening if there is a lot of metaphyseal comminution. In such case, it is better to use a distractor, AO distractor, to try and get the length right. Pathological fracture, floating knees, we can use this approach for distal. So you can do both tibia nailing as well as the femur nailing in the same sitting. What we have to do, the positioning, it has been discussed in the previously as well. We have to make sure that the table is right, that it is radiolucent, you are able to see all throughout. Tilting of the C-arm has been discussed in the past. And another thing, that the bump which we use for the pillow, it should not be a sandbag where you will have a difficulty in visualizing. It should be either a pillow or something which is quite nice radiolucent. Also, what happens, because of the gastrocnemius spool, you will often find that the distal femur is flexed. Then you have to overcome that flexion deformity when you are trying to enter. You can use it by manipulation or add additional bump to overcome the deformity of the distal femur. So you have to know your equipment correctly, so that your execution of the operation goes very well. So you have to be very familiar with all the equipment. So normally we use the either distal femur of the AO or with the AOSYS which they have given. We are shafts are available, the reamers are available from 8 mm to about 13-14 mm. The limitation is the diameter of the isthmus, because you want the hold in the isthmus where you will get a proper fitting nail. The approach is also whether tendon splitting or medial para, which one to choose. If it is an obese patient, tendon splitting approach is little difficult. Second thing is medial parapatellar gives you little more access to enter the correct center point of the femoral condyle, and also you have to excise a bit of fat pad to be able to assess, so you can mobilize the patellar tendon and patella, so your entry point is correct. Entry point is the most important aspect of this, where you put your guide wire. It has to be in center in both AP and lateral view. Here's the entry point. Here what I would say, everybody's talked about the entry point being in the right at the tip of Blumenstadt line. See, you are putting in a nail which has a diameter, proximal diameter or distal diameter of about 14-16. I would, rather than right at the tip where the ACL gets inserted, I would factor in about 5 mm either way to allow that nail, so that I am not breaking into the intercondylar notch. Again, I have said about the flexion deformity of the distal femur. So you have to overcome that. Now, reamed versus unreamed nailing. Usually, we have in elderly patients which are large osteoporotic. You can, once you got your entry point, the nail would just walking straight away. You usually don't require reaming, but if it's a good strong bone, you may have to do that. There are few aspects about the reaming. You need to be careful about that. The reaming should go well and not excessive, so that you don't eat away into the fracture fragments. This has also been talked about. Now, how Sir said ki you understand that it is a trapezoidal shape, but you can check it by two ways. Once, if it is a thin patient, you can palpate as you are putting the screw, palpate the opposite side, it is not proud. In a thin patient, you can do it, but in an obese patient, often it is not palpable, so you could rotate the femur and check on C-arm that the screw tip is not feeling proud. And as it has to be remained to the cortex. Otherwise, often the patient complains of the tip protruding. Also, it is more, you have to be more careful when you are doing the distal most screws, because there the subcutaneous tissue is much less. The penultimate screws where there is a lot of subcutaneous tissue, you might get away with a slightly proud screws. But ideally, it should be the perfect rather than, protruding screws. So rotate your femur and check under C-arm that your screws are not proud. Now, whether when you're reaming, when you're putting the nail, whether there is any rotational deformity or not. One is by checking the alignment intra-op, and other things that you can do is seeing on the X-ray whether your cortex thickness are matching of your reduction, whether they are equal. See, as it's seen over here, the thickness of the cortex in proximal and the distal part is different. That means your rotations are not correct. You need to equalize that. Again, check the alignment, see that they are equal. Otherwise, you might end up with a rotational deformity, which is not acceptable. It is very bad for the patient. This is one of the cases I did many years back. This is got a segmental fracture, but we could get away with the reduction. There are few screws. The hold is in the hold of the nail has to be up way into the isthmus, and the reduction has to be adequate. So to get a good
Hemant, can I ask you one question?
Sure.
You and to Sir also. In these comminuted fractures, how do you ensure that there is no varus and valgus? Because sometimes the landmarks are distorted. One is the C-arm image, but you don't get a full view.
True,
so what are the various ways to ensure?
There is only two points you have to enter. You have to make sure that your entry is center in the distal part, and you have to have a fitting nail and hold is in isthmus. Rest will manage and settle itself.
But sometimes the elderly people, the canal is so wide, you can't put a very thick nail. Or even for a plate for that matter, how do you ensure that there is no varus and valgus? I mean, AO says you look at the hip and you use a cautery wire and look at the length and all those things.
But
practical
say, suppose we are doing the nail, so I have to, the only way I can make sure that it is not in varus and valgus is that I get a center, intercondylar notch entry, which should be bang center. It should show on the C-arm to be center, and your reduction is based on that. If your entry is wrong, then everything goes wrong. So also in a plate, So if you have a plate which you put, and most people end up doing J deformity or golf club deformity. You have to understand, if you over tighten it, it will displace medially. You use it as an internal external fixator and try and maintain the contour of the lower end of the femur, so it doesn't go into a J deformity.
Yes. Sir, any tips, sir?
I think he has mentioned everything. Basically, the point of entry. And
You walk around.
You have to be into the center in AP and lateral. That's what we talked about it.
Correct.
So otherwise, the polar screws, in order to make that point of entry in the center.
In a plate, when you're plating, sometimes it's a problem. Combination.
If it is comminuted, what you mentioned is I don't like the guide wire thing. I always keep the TKR alignment guide, because in the guide wire so many times it goes haywire. So I have it in my armamentum, a TKR alignment jig, which is the one which will give you the good alignment all the time.
How do you use that, sir?
Same like TKR what we are using. In the center of the head and the center of the knee.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.